What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home?
A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our News First studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Mariam Ganavijaya.
And I'm Sandra Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Four excise officers who were arrested by police during a drug raid granted bail.
මේ සියල්ලත් විමර්ශන කරලා ගරු අධිකරණයට ඒ පිළිබඳව ඊළඟ දිනේදී දැනුම් දීමට කටයුතු කරමු.
මෙම ඇති වූ සිද්ධිය සම්බන්ධයෙන් අතිශයින්ම කනගාටුවට පත් වෙනවා.
Water released from the Samanala River to the Udavala Reservoir. Programs in place for uninterrupted supply of electricity. Another generator at the Norachole power plant goes out of service. Another Aragale under the guise of farmers' crisis. President gets intelligence report. Reveals Minister Bandula.
අමරවීර මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කෘෂිකර්ම ඇමැතිතුමාගේ තමන්ගේ පුද්ගලික නිවාහනය වට කරන්න සූදානම් කරලා තිබුණා. කාංචන විජේසේකර අමාත්‍යතුමාගේ නිවසට විශේෂ ආරක්ෂාවක් යොදන්න උනා වට කරන්න සැලැස්මක් තිබුණා.
8 people arrested for illegally entering CBSL.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
First up in news here at home, the Excise Department personnel who were arrested by Sri Lanka police on Monday during a drug raid were granted bail by court on Tuesday.
Why did Sri Lanka police arrest 4 excise officers?
The Narcotic Bureau of the Excise Department of Sri Lanka had carried out a drug raid along Marine Drive in Bambalapitiya on Monday evening. An 8-member team led by an excise inspector, including 7 excise officers, had carried out a raid by deploying a fake buyer in order to arrest the suspects involved in selling drugs.
The excise officers deployed a decoy to buy 150 grams of heroin. When the seller was arrested, his accomplice attempted to flee.
වහාම විකුණන ලද පුද්ගලයාව අත්අඩංගුවට ගනිද්දී ඔහු හා සමග පැමිණි ඔහුගේ සහායකයා වහාම මෝටර් රථයකින් පලා යාමට කටයුතු කර තිබෙනවා.
The excise officers had opened fire in a bid to arrest the fleeing suspect. However, the suspect had managed to flee the area and then abandoned the car in Vallavatta. CCTV cameras picked up his escape in a 3-wheeler. Four excise officers who took part in the operation and were returning to the base were arrested by Sri Lanka police, who deployed a roadblock in Vallavatta.
What happened to the excise officers who were arrested by Sri Lanka police?
Sri Lanka police had seized a pistol belonging to the excise inspector that was used in the shooting and produced the excise officers to the Hulsdorf Magistrates Court on Tuesday morning. Sri Lanka police said that an investigation is underway to determine if the shooting was carried out on a personal motive. The Sri Lanka police told court that police were not informed about the raid that was carried out by the excise officers. Counsel appearing for the excise department told the court that Sri Lanka police arrested the excise officers without giving them an opportunity to give notice about the raid. The excise department stressed that the shooting was legal as the raid was an official assignment. Counsel pointed out that there were no objections to the investigation carried out by the Sri Lanka police, however sought bail for the excise officers. Upon considering the submissions made to the court, the excise officers were released on bail and the case will be called up on the 28th of August. The suspect, who was arrested for heroin possession, was produced in court on Tuesday evening and was remanded to Wednesday.
What does Sri Lanka police say about the incident?
දැන් මේ සුරාබදු නිලධාරීන් ලබා දීලා තිබෙන ප්‍රකාශය පිළිබඳවත් අපි විමර්ශන සිදු කරනවා. ගරු අධිකරණයත්
We are conducting an investigation on the statements given by the excise officers. The court had ordered for a comprehensive investigation. We will investigate as to whether it was an official assignment and if force was used for self-protection and report the facts to the court. They were arrested several kilometers away from where the incident took place. We are investigating that as well and we will report the facts to the court.
අත්අඩංගුවට පත් වෙලා තිබුණේ ඒ පිළිබඳවත් අපි විමර්ශන සිදු කරන ගරු අධිකරණයට ඒ ගැන වාර්තාවක් අපි ඊළඟ දවසේ ලබා දෙනවා.
What does the excise department say about the incident?
ශ්‍රී ලංකා සුරාබදු දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව සුරාබදු ආඥා පනත යටතේත් ඒ වගේම දුම්කොළ
The Excise Department of Sri Lanka is an institution that is empowered by the Excise Ordinance, the NATA Act and the Poisonous Opium and Dangerous Drugs Ordinance. The officers are those who have been specially trained to enforce the law with regard to drugs. They have been ordered to conduct investigations within the country and arrest suspects using appropriate means. The Excise Department of Sri Lanka has been implementing the law for almost 110 years. I believe that if our officers had committed a mistake, the opportunity of solving it via discussion is no longer available.
මං හිතන්නේ අපිට සාකච්ඡා මාර්ගයෙන් සහනශීලී පියවරකට යාමට තිබූ අවස්ථාව මගහැරී ගිය බවයි පෙනෙන්නට තිබෙන්නේ.
Cabinet spokesperson and Minister Bambula Gunawardena on Tuesday said that the President informed the Cabinet of Ministers that he received an intelligence report highlighting an attempt to reignite the events that took place on the 9th of May 2022, citing the drought, electricity and water issues.
The minister elaborated this during the weekly briefing to the announced cabinet decisions.
A message circulated by the President's media division via WhatsApp on Monday was that there were attempts to recreate a people's struggle citing the drought and frustrations of the farmers. The President's secretary said no such report was given to the President and that he was not aware of it. What does the PMD expect by releasing such a message to the media? Are you even aware of this?
The President informed the Cabinet of Ministers that the National Intelligence Service received a report that certain groups involved in the Aragale and opposition were planning to reignite the events that took place on the 9th of May 2022, citing the drought as well as the electricity and water crisis. There was an attempt to surround the private vehicle of Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amravira. Special security was provided to the residence of Power and Energy Minister Kanchan Wijesekara as there was a plan to attack it. The President also informed the Cabinet of Ministers that 2 media institutions launched a media campaign to organize all these involved groups, bring them to Colombo and organize another string of protests starting from the farmers' protest and create a situation where shots will be fired and several deaths will be reported. It was an attempt to destabilize the country. If media institutions are attempting to incite the people and force them to the streets by citing natural events like the drought that are beyond the control of the government, then as the Minister of Media, I am disappointed. I appeal to the media colleagues to look at this logically.
It is reported that a request will be made to form a select committee against the media institutions that highlighted the farmers' water crisis. Are the media institutions at fault for this issue, or is it the cabinet, including yourself?
This was a regional issue in Udavalava and it was to be solved with the electricity issue. These people are getting revenue for the first time in 3 to 4 years. Tourists visit the south and if there is no electricity, the tourism sector will collapse. There is no issue when the media balances this analytically. If issues can be solved by reigniting the May 9th events by spreading violence to set fire to the residences of ministers, then the country should be able to function when all the residences of ministers are set alight, right? That won't happen.
Parliamentarian of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna, Prem Natsi Dolawatta, commented on this matter in Parliament.
There is no issue with heads of media institutions engaging in politics. However, instead of engaging in politics, if some media are working to have the houses of innocent people set on fire, to have their property damaged and to have the people lose their lives, they must know that the frequency belongs to the people. If they assume it is their personal property, we will have to look at it again. At times they make decisions like kings. One institution never shows me. If these media institutions are spreading violence and inciting people to set fire to houses and cause deaths in the name of the truth, we need to take action on them.
Farmers from the Valava zone in the south of Sri Lanka protested and engaged in a satyagraha campaign for almost a month, demanding that water be released from the Samanala to the Udavalava reservoir so they could nurture their rice fields. As the country's power and energy minister said that releasing water from the Samanala to the Udavalava reservoir would result in power cuts to the southern province, a limited water supply was made available to the rice farmers. On Monday, Sri Lanka's cabinet of ministers decided to release water from the Samanala Vaver for agricultural purposes, and thus water was released from 2:30 a.m. on Tuesday. The Mahaweli Authority of Sri Lanka said it would take at least another 2 days to release the required amount of water. The Ceylon Electricity Board said that water is being released from the Samanala Vaver while adding 120 megawatts of electricity from the power plant to the national grid. 42 cubic meters of water were released per second from the Samanala Vaver on Tuesday morning. 289 cubic feet of water were released per second from the Udavalava reservoir to the rice fields via the Southern Bank Canal, while 196 cubic feet of water were released via the Left Bank Canal. However, the amount of water that should be released to meet the requirements of the farmers should be increased to 700 cubic feet per second. It takes approximately 9 hours for water to flow from the Samanala Vaver to the Udavalava reservoir. Rice farmers from Ambilipitia said they would continue with the Satyagraha campaign until their rice fields receive water. Tuesday marks 16 days since the rice farmers launched the Satyagraha campaign.
We will not abandon our cause until every rice field receives water. We will also launch a movement to demand compensation. The cabinet earlier said they will not be able to provide electricity if water is released. The president also said the same. The farmers have managed to force the president and the cabinet to their knees. If the water released today was released a fortnight ago, all these rice fields could have been saved. Harin Fernando and Manuchanana Ekara, who are political orphans, held a media briefing. They said that an intelligence report revealed that a certain group was trying to incite the farmers and cause trouble. Did the intelligence agencies understand over a month ago that the lives of 85,000 agrarian families and over 65,000 acres of rice fields were at risk of being destroyed? The government must intervene in this disaster. 60% of the rice fields were destroyed because of this tug of war. However, if this decision had been taken a fortnight ago, 80% of these rice fields could have been saved. We have some cruel rulers who would simply allow these crops to die.
Many rice farmers in the Hambantota district are anticipating water from the Udavalava reservoir so that they can protect their rice fields.
We urge the authorities to expedite the water, to release water and save the farmers. We believe that the farmers from Hambantota will not be able to provide food for their families. We doubt whether the crops will produce a good harvest. We need water. We find it difficult to assume that a good harvest can be reaped.
Cabinet decisions and the water crisis were raised in Parliament on Tuesday.
ජුනි මාසේ 30 වෙනිදා වෙනකන් වාරිමාර්ග අමාත්‍යාංශයෙන් අපෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කළා තිබුණේ නැහැ සමනලවෙන් මෙන්න මෙහෙම එකක් නිදහස් කරන්න කියන එක.
The Ministry of Irrigation had not requested water from the Samanala Vaver until the 30th of June. When a request was made on the 30th of June, we made the necessary arrangements. There was also misconception that the issue could have been solved if the water had been released earlier and that the water is available for another 4 to 5 days. Honourable Speaker, we are managing the water that was released today and the CEB has also made plans. If our plans are executed, we will be able to generate electricity from the Samanala Vaver reservoir without any issue until the 15th of October. Then we can ensure continuous supply of electricity. A decision was reached by the Cabinet and we decided to provide maximum capacity for irrigation and agriculture. It means that from today for 3 days we will release 3.5 MCM of water while generating electricity. We will release 2.5 MCM of water for the next 5 days. However, by doing so, electricity generation at the Samanala Vaver reservoir will come to a complete standstill on the 16th of August. Our next option is to purchase electricity. If not, we will have to impose 3-hour power cuts for the Matara, Gaul, Ratnapura and Hambantota districts. If we are to ensure a continuous supply of electricity from the 15th of August, we will have to purchase electricity through the procurement process. The Irrigation Ministry cannot simply give a week's notice for water. We need to forecast this, and that is when we will have to go for emergency purchasing.
සතියකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා වතුර ඕන කියලා කියන්න බෑ. මේක පුරෝකතනය කරලා කියන්න වෙනවා. එතකොට තමයි අර කියන හදිසි මිලදී ගැනීම වලට යන්න වෙන්නේ. වාරිමාර්ග දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව
The Department of Irrigation made the first request on the 30th of June. I got involved and made submissions to the Cabinet for the first time on the 17th of July.
මාසේ 17 වෙනිදා කියන එකත් මම මෙතනදී සිහිපත් කරනවා.
දැන් ජලය නිකුත් කරත් මහා විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් ඒ ගොවින්ගේ වගාබිම් විනාශ වෙනවා. දැන් මොකක්ද ඒකට රජය දෙන උත්තරේ? කිසිම සම්බන්ධීකරණයක් නැහැ.
Even if water is released, swathes of rice fields have been destroyed. But it it's the government's response to that. There is no coordination within the Ministry of Power and Energy, Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Irrigation. The government's central nervous system has collapsed. The torso does not know what the head is doing and the head does not know what the limbs are doing. Because the woes of the farmers were highlighted by the media and because the farmers protested, you have decided to release water. Now what are you trying to do? You are trying to appoint a select committee against the media. This is important. There is no select committee for importing substandard fertilizer. There is no select committee for the billion rupee tax relief, sugar tax scam, garlic scam and coconut oil scam. But you want a select committee against the media that reveal the issues of the farmers. Who is responsible for the short-sighted decisions that deprive the farmers water? Who are those ministers? Who is at fault? Water was continuously released from the Samanala River. However, it was not at the rate expected by the opposition leader. The cabinet of ministers never decided against providing water for agriculture. The cabinet decided to ensure uninterrupted electricity supply while providing water for agriculture. Why are you opting for emergency purchasing all of a sudden? He said that water was released from the Samanala River even when it was not required for agriculture. You need to correct it and not engage in these illicit acts. No matter what you say, we will not back down in taking decisions to provide an uninterrupted supply of electricity and water to the people. We have heard such things when importing goods, providing electricity, and even when importing fuel. You cannot reap a paddy harvest by providing water to hay. The necessary decisions were not taken on time. The government only knows to import when a shortage arises. They do the same for eggs, meat and rice. Do we need a government to do all this? The wholesale traders at 2nd Cross Street in Petta can do a better job. The media drew attention towards the issue. Now the media is being threatened. I am informed that there were calls to appoint a select committee against certain media. Is that your position? You claim that the media is inciting the people, so you are trying to suppress the media via a select committee. We have an insane leader who is governing the country with insanity. He is a dry man. He has no heart and does not understand the pain of the people. It is no surprise that the rice fields are being destroyed when such a person is ruling the country. I can see the importance of introducing the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act. This is an attempt to create hatred against the government and politicians and move this country to another position. We will not fall prey to these ploys. We debate in Parliament, but we are bound to execute the decisions taken by the government after reaching common ground. If we as public representatives act on the national policy, the number one priority is water, second is agriculture and third is electricity. Water was not provided at the most crucial stage of the cultivation. This time we will face an issue with the harvest. This will lead to massive destruction and it would not be taken lightly. We will take our best. We will try our best to compensate the farmers and the President has agreed to it.
News First with the people.
Approval has now been granted for the emergency purchase of electricity to prevent disruptions in the supply of electricity due to the release of water from Samanala River to the rice fields.
Now, it was reported on Tuesday evening that the second generator of the Norachole coal power plant was also put out of commission.
In a backdrop where one generator of the Norachole coal power plant has already been put out of commission due to an essential repair, the second generator has also been deactivated due to a mechanical failure. Accordingly, the maximum capacity of 900 megawatts that can be supplied to the national grid through this power plant is now limited to 270 megawatts.
We have taken steps to repair it as soon as possible. It will be convenient to do the repairs of the Norachole plant using the 10 or 12 units we get, as electricity is produced in full capacity from the Samanala River reservoir. Due to this, electricity generation is being carried out in full capacity through all power plants operating under the Ministry of Power and Energy. The amount that we are no longer able to produce from the Norachole plant is being covered by the Samanala River reservoir.
In a backdrop where the electricity supply from the Samanalabava reservoir has also been limited for a few days, the second generator of the Norochole power plant was also put out of commission. Once electricity generation from the Samanalabava is concluded in another few days, it will be possible to provide electricity to the southern province only through the emergency purchase of electricity from the private sector. Now, although there is sufficient supply in the national grid, this situation has arisen as the transmission system that connects the southern province has not yet been linked to the national grid. What is the situation that would arise now that two generators of the Norochole power plant have been put out of commission? Attention was paid to this matter in Parliament today.
I must point out that the issue regarding the supply of electricity to the southern province can be solved to a certain extent if the power line that comes from Umaoya to Ambalangoda is put to use.
The issue brought up by parliamentarian Vasudevan Anayakara has been around for 5 to 6 years now. The length covered is about 150 kilometers and compensation had been paid to over 2,500 people. However, in one part of the final stage, the owner of the land disagreed with the amount assessed by the government. They have agreed to have a discussion with the Public Utilities Commission on the 11th of August. We hope they will give their approval on the 11th. In that case, it would take only 4 days to settle the matter. If so, we would be able to reduce the amount of electricity to be purchased.
The transmission line, which is 150 kilometers long, cannot be connected to the national grid due to a 650 meter stretch near the house of a person named Artigala. It has been about 2 or 3 years now. If this stretch can be connected, electricity or water can be supplied from Lakshapana to Hambantota. There would be no issue there. However, now there is another party that we all know of, Ace Power. The CEB still has the plant under it, even after their agreement has expired. The owner of that plant knows that there are only 2 places below Balangoda which can be used to supply electricity to the south, either the Samanalabava or Ace Power in Ambilipitia. So if electricity cannot be supplied from the Samanalabava, it will have to be done through Ace Power. If plans were made in March, tenders should have been called for this way before. When are you planning on calling for tenders? So what will be done now? Power will have to be supplied from Ace Power in Ambilipitia.
It is frequently being said that we only purchase the essential amount of electricity through the emergency purchases. I must make it clear that we do not do emergency purchases.
The solution is not to provide police and army security to the houses of the ministers. If the problem in Siripagam is solved in 4 days, electricity can be supplied to the south through a transmission line with no issue. One should be brave to solve this issue of Siripagama, which has been around for 3 years.
The Cabinet of Ministers has approved the allocation of 4 billion rupees for emergency purchases due to the dry spell of weather. Honorable Chairperson, this situation was predicted. There was plenty of time to plan the purchase of electricity. It is only when all reservoirs are dried up that the Cabinet of Ministers say that unless emergency purchases of electricity are carried out, the entire country would be in darkness.
People from several parts of Sri Lanka are battling to find access to clean drinking water due to the prevailing arid weather conditions in those areas.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board says that 12 out of 344 identified water sources on the island are at risk.
34 of our water supplies are at risk. 12 out of 344 water sources are at critical stage now. When we call it critical, it doesn't mean that they have stopped, but those water sources are in critical stage, and we have 34 in the critical stage now.
According to the Met Department, it is highly unlikely that the country will experience rainfall until October. In such a backdrop, several areas in the island are facing severe difficulties in obtaining water. What is the state of the farmlands that are nourished by the Kalabava? Nearly 150 acres of rice fields in Dambevatana, which are nourished by the Kalabava, are on the brink of destruction owing to the poor supply of water.
The Mahavili authority is telling us that they will only release 1 more slot of water. But that is not enough. We need at least 3 or 4 more slots of water. In the end, we don't have anything to eat or drink.
The water that is pumped to the Kotmale reservoir from the Mahabali river is diverted to the Kalababa through the Ukuela hydropower station. But as of today, the water level of the Kotmale reservoir is at 115 million cubic meters. According to the Mahabali authority, at least 2,000 cubic feet of water should be released per second in order to supply an adequate amount of water to the Mahabali H zone. This was the situation with the reservoirs in the Hambantota district. The water level at the Kakiriobada reservoir in the Hambantota district is at a critical stage owing to the arid weather. The Kakirioya, which is a branch of the Kiramoya, is the main source of water to the Kakiriobada reservoir, and today the water level of the Kakiriobada reservoir has reached 550 acre-feet. The local irrigation engineer of Virakatia said that water from the reservoir cannot be released for cultivation owing to the prevailing arid weather conditions. Nearly 4,000 farming families in the area are facing severe difficulties due to this. Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre says people in 6 districts of the country are affected by the arid weather conditions. Ratnapura, Trincomalee, Putlam, Kurunagala, Jaffna and Mannar are the affected districts in the country. Nearly 92,731 people from 28,837 families are affected due to the arid weather.
Up next is our investigative news segment, Action.
Sri Lanka's Paddy Marketing Board has reversed its decision to sell 50 million kilograms of paddy for a very low price to small and medium rice mills. The head office of the Paddy Marketing Board had earlier instructed its storage facilities in Jaffna, Mannar, Polonnaruwa and Ampara to deliver the consignment of paddy to selected rice mills in Polonnaruwa. This decision was reached without a call for price quotes or tenders. The decision was terminated at midnight on Monday, the 7th of August. By the time this decision was reached, around 40,000 kilograms of a variety of paddy, locally known as Bolavi, had been released to a rice mill owner from a storage facility in Mannar. The Paddy Marketing Board had purchased the consignment of paddy from the local rice farmers during the Yalla season in 2022, quoting a price of 120 rupees per kilogram. As per this documented directive by the chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, a kilogram of Nadu paddy that was purchased from the local rice farmers for 120 rupees was available for a selected group of rice mill owners to be purchased for a mere 80 rupees, and this move, which lacked transparency, was exposed by Action TV on Monday. As per the directive of the chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, the highest amount of paddy was sold in such a manner from the storage facilities located in Ampara, which is over 500,000 kilograms of paddy. 300,000 kilograms of the said amount is Nadu paddy, and the Paddy Marketing Board had incurred a loss of 43 rupees per kilogram of paddy that was sold for a low price. The Paddy Marketing Board purchased the kilogram of paddy cultivated 2 seasons ago for 120 rupees and sold it to rice mills for a mere 80 rupees, and this time had instructed the storage facilities in Ampara to purchase paddy from local farmers at a price of 95 rupees per kilogram. 95 rupees per kilogram is the certified price imposed by the country's Cabinet of Ministers. If measures are to be taken to prevent the new batch of paddy from being sold to rice mill owners for a very low price, shouldn't those responsible for it in the first place be terminated from service? Prime Minister, this is over to you.
In the meantime, views were expressed regarding the broadcasting regulatory bill at a media conference held by the Free Media Movement.
This is not an independent commission. This is very dangerous. All 5 of these members are government officials. These members who are appointed by the president have no big responsibility. They can be given other positions. Who are they accountable to? This is very dangerous. This is an attempt to control media. This is an attempt to make them beneficial for them. How is this done? Through licenses in other countries. An agreement will take place between the government and the broadcasting entities. That is what we call the license. The license holder must act per the provisions of the license. If not, they will lose it. There are major concerns with regard to the technical aspects of the bill. This is not a draft that should even be made a bill. I think a parliament that consists of ruling party and opposition civil activists should come into common consensus regarding this draft. If not, they cannot act according to their whims and fancies when regulating media.
මැදිහත් වීම වලින් මේ ප්‍රශ්නය निराකරණය කර ගැනීමේ ඉඩක් නැහැ කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
One person died in a fire which broke out in a factory down the Church Road in Kandana.
A fire had broken out in the factory which produces cleaning agents at about 8:30 on Tuesday morning. Fire trucks of the Gampaha and Negombo fire stations and the Navy firefighting unit were deployed to extinguish the fire. The deceased was an accounts clerk at the said factory. Sri Lanka police said that he was a 50-year-old resident of Ganemulla. And 92 people, including students from the school in Kandana, were admitted to the Ragama hospital due to the inhalation of smoke of the fire in the factory. 6 teachers and staff members are among those hospitalized. Hospital officials say that their conditions are not serious. The cause of fire is yet to be ascertained.
Sri Lanka police on Tuesday arrested 8 people for allegedly trespassing into the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The arrested men were members of the Association of Leasing and Debt Installment Payers.
A group of members from the Small and Medium Scale Entrepreneurs and Civil Organizations Collective gathered near the Central Bank premises on Tuesday, and they were denied entry from the main gate. They then entered the premises via another entrance. Thereafter, the protesters vacated the premises and protested outside the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. It was then that the Sri Lanka police made several arrests. The arrested men were taken to the Kumpanavidya police and will be produced in court on Wednesday.
The first annual technical session organized by the ICT Lawyers Guild of Sri Lanka took place on Monday in Colombo.
The first annual technical session on the topic Envisioning a Robust and Legal Framework in Navigating Artificial Intelligence and the Digital Economy took place on Monday in Colombo. The first annual technical session was organized by the ICT Lawyers Guild of Sri Lanka. Chief Justice Janta Jayasuriya made remarks on the evolving legal sector with the change in technologies.
We speak of paperless courts, we speak of virtual hearings, but also we hear of electronic evidence, computer crimes and abusers in the process. It is worth making reference to the fact that in certain jurisdictions we are replacing or perhaps facilitating the adjudicating processes by human beings with the assistance of AI. So it is really important to ensure that all the benefits that we can reap in these two areas are well regulated to ensure that the abusers and the harm that can be caused are minimized, if not eliminated.
Although ICT has been part and parcel of Sri Lanka, it came very much into focus during the COVID-19 pandemic because there were regular lockdowns and many of the departments and so on and so forth were closed down, and we had to regularly advise certain corporations, departments and statutory bodies on a regular basis on economic matters.
Chief of Staff to the President of Sri Lanka, Sagala Ratnayaka, spoke on the state sector development of ICT infrastructure in Sri Lanka.
Digital services in Sri Lanka started a long time ago, but the demand now is for public digital services to cut down on corruption, to cut down on bureaucracy, to make it easier for our citizens to be able to get serviced by their governments. We are also determined to go down the path of digital transformation. We will be starting with the platform that India has used. It's called the Mosaic platform.
Divi Savya, the second leg of the Divi Savya program to provide much needed school books and stationery items to school children in Sri Lanka. 9th of August, Gampala and Denuwara.
Dai Daruwange Anagate Venuwen Divi Savya, LOLC Prajasatkara Mehevara.
Be the first to know about the biggest stories as they break. Subscribe to News First English News Alerts. News First, your trusted English news channel.
Cabinet has given the green light for the amendment of the Employees Provident Fund Act.
The resolution submitted by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies for taking necessary measures to amend the Employees Provident Fund Act was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. According to the proposal, the minimum annual interest rate on the contribution within the next 4 years from 2023 to 2026 should at least be 9%.
Sri Lanka's central bank chief says that the monetary policy transmission is still incomplete.
Governor of the Central Bank Nandalal Veerasinghe at a LSEG-FX community event on Monday says that monetary policy transmission to the real economy in Sri Lanka is still incomplete. He says that he would like to see the private sector interest rates come down further at a faster pace, adding that the domestic debt restructuring is the most important focus for the debt-laden country in the near term. He told a gathering that Sri Lanka would firstly like to see the yields drop in line with the policy rates and from there decline further, adding that the central bank is waiting to see this reaction from markets. The central bank governor said that Sri Lanka has to ensure that fiscal consolidation and other measures outlined in the IMF program are taken forward in a strong budget.
The Chief of Worldwide Responsible Accreditation Production highlighted the importance of independent certification for Sri Lankan apparel companies.
Avendis Safarian, the Chief of Worldwide Responsible Accreditation Production, RAP, explained that certification programs like RAP offer valuable benefits over proprietary audits. He added that this reduces audit fatigue in the industry and makes RAP certification a robust testament to responsible sourcing. On the topic of Sri Lanka's progress in the apparel industry concerning environmental, social and corporate governance criteria as per RAP's observations, Safarian was appreciative. He praised Sri Lankan factories for their dedication to social compliance and sustainability. Regarding Sri Lanka's latest labour law reforms, he noted that RAP follows a dynamic and adaptive approach.
Everyone deserves a day at the beach, and for these hard-working police horses and their riders, today was that day.
This morning, at the invitation of Ceylon Riding Club, 19 warm-blood horses from the Police Mounted Division enjoyed a well-deserved break from parade routine to splash in the waves and enjoy a cool swim.
In an uplifting event that echoed the need for a break from daily routines, the Ceylon Riding Club extended a heartening invitation to 19 warm-blood horses from the Police Mounted Division to enjoy a well-deserved respite. The usually dignified police horses exchanged their parade drills for a joyous splash in the waves, embracing a refreshing ocean swim. This rare excursion showcased the genuine care and concern for these equine officers' well-being, reflecting the deep respect the Police Mounted Division has for its noble companions.
They're all having a good field day out and getting some training, and us with the CRC working hand in hand with them, trying to get them more desensitized, and also it actually helps the horses to relax a lot.
This is absolutely amazing day for us here at the Ceylon Riding Club, to see history being made here on the beach with these beautiful horses and the Mounted Division. Also very excited to see ladies riding, I think, which again is kind of historical.
The sight of these magnificent animals frolicking in the surf brought smiles not just to the faces of their dedicated riders, but to onlookers as well.
Sachin Tendulkar, the UNICEF Regional Goodwill Ambassador for South Asia, is in Sri Lanka, and during an event on Tuesday, he stressed on the need to look into the welfare of children.
Sachin Tendulkar was appointed as the first UNICEF Regional Goodwill Ambassador for South Asia in 2013. Since then, he has been playing a pivotal role in improving the lives of children in South Asia.
I truly believe children are the future, and if we support them today, they will make us proud tomorrow. For every nation to prosper, I think the children in those countries need to grow up happy and healthy, and then things can turn around. But for that, let me tell you one experience that I went to Ruwanvilla yesterday, and it was striking. It touched my heart. 5-6-year-old children. It was their meal time. They were all eating together, but at the same time, the teacher was moving around the table with a plate in her hand. All children from their plate had to give bit of food onto that plate. And I asked the teacher, what is happening? Why are they doing this? And she said, this is for all the birds who come outside and sit there. They know it's their food time too. And that's a beautiful thought, because it is about caring, sharing and giving. I think these are important qualities. If they are inculcated at the right time, they stay with you forever, and extremely important. Every child should have right to education. It is the foundation for every child, I believe. And it's something which happen on its own. I mean, we should not be even ideally discussing. We are in 2023, and malnutrition, education, looking after your children has to be a normal process.
Former cricketing legend Sachin Tendulkar concluded his visit by speaking to a group of young people from Sri Lanka. He shared his experiences growing up in overcoming obstacles, remaining resilient and focused in pursuing his goal. He also encouraged the young people to stay in school and follow their dreams.
World Scout Jamboree participants in South Korea evacuated the campsite as Typhoon Kanun loomed close to the area.
The Sri Lankan delegation taking part in the 25th World Scout Jamboree in South Korea vacated the campsite on Tuesday afternoon. News First Special Delegate to the World Scout Jamboree Yasrat Kamasiri quoting the chief of the Sri Lanka Scout Association said that the South Korean government had made the necessary arrangements to accommodate the scouts from Sri Lanka and other countries. South Korean authorities began a massive operation on Tuesday to relocate nearly 40,000 teenage scouts from around the world after they were forced to change venues for a 12-day gathering that had become plagued with problems. An approaching typhoon and extreme heat, the latter of which sickened hundreds of teens, put a dampener on festivities, and scouts are now leaving the main venue almost a week ahead of schedule. The Sri Lankan delegation taking part in the 25th World Scout Jamboree reached Yongji, some 30 kilometers away from Seoul, and will be provided with accommodation at the Konkuk University, where they will remain until the 11th of August.
News First. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Good night and take care.